When you become a TYT member, not only do you get exclusive content, you become a part of our family. Click the link in the description box below to join the home of progressives.
This type of propaganda, unfortunately, does work with some people. And nothing made that clearer than what Emma Vigeland experienced when she went to a Trump rally in Arizona recently. You know, she spoke to a number of Trump supporters, but one Trump voter stood out the most. And here's what he believes should be done with migrants as they attempt to cross the border.
What would solve the whole thing in the border if they would just start shooting? Only shoot a couple and they would go home.
You think deterrence would work?
If they would shoot.
So a lot of these people are fleeing horrific political situations themselves and seeking asylum. You still think that we should shoot?
If they just shot at them a few times, they would go back.
Well, I thought Emma hit on a good point there. She was saying fleeing political violence, and my mother came from El Salvador, and she was undocumented. And when I asked her case, and then started reading studies, I found that it was not uncommon that many of these folks are actual refugees, I think, and not just seeking, necessarily a better life, but literally seeking not to die from a war zone. So in my mother's case, she was fleeing the Civil War there, which the U.S. had played a role in. And so now today, when we look at the migrants, many of them are not from Mexico, they're from Honduras, where our government unfortunately also had a negative role after the coup, in other countries like that. So I think we need to consider this kind of a context, like why are they coming here? It's not necessarily to want to invade, but just to survive.
So the right wing, and they say it all the time, will take what you said and say, well, you see that? Instead of blaming them, they're blaming us for the problems. But why do you want to blame them? They're poor people who are running from violence and poverty. Even if it was just poverty and not the violence, like what joy do you get out of blaming those poor people who are looking for a better life for themselves and their kids? And I guess if you want to be ignorant, that's your call. But did we help to start a civil war in El Salvador? Yes, we most definitely did. It's not in dispute. Has our war on drugs created monstrous gangs in Latin America? Yes, of course they have. Every time we do prohibition, it creates gangs like Al Capone during the prohibition of beer. And now MS-13 and other gangs in the prohibition of marijuana. And so does policy have an effect? Yes. Now, if you'd like to be stupid, and I'm keeping it real with you, and you say, no, brown people are bad, we good. I don't care about history, I don't care about consequences, I don't care about policy. Well, I can't help you because we don't speak the same language. I speak policy and facts and consequences, and you speak stupid.
But look, I think that there is a lot of ignorance, right? And there's ignorance across the board, regardless of what your political ideology is, because what we just discussed very briefly right now is something that most Americans don't know about because our media doesn't talk about it. Right. They always address the symptoms of a larger problem, okay? So this whole military-industrial complex, not only does it have negative impacts on us as US taxpayers, who should have things like universal health care, who should have our taxpayer money actually helping our lives and benefiting our lives, but it also negatively impacts other countries and leads to these situations where people flee violence from their own countries, and that violence is something that we played a role in. So we need to look, if you don't like brown people, okay, I disagree with you wholeheartedly, but that's fine. We can actually solve the root of the issue moving forward rather than dealing with these symptoms, right? Because why are things bad in these countries? Is there anything that we can do to help the situation in these countries so we don't have these, mass numbers of refugees trying to come in? But we never have that conversation.
Just use your head. Why would people want to leave their homes?
Exactly.
I don't want to leave my home.
Me either.
There's a reason if you do. And I feel like if, we're a part of that reason, not all of it, but a part of it, we should try to help a little bit. And so that's my view.
I totally agree.
And by the way, we were part of the reason why Japan and Germany were devastated after World War II for good reason. And what do? We helped rebuild them. And instead of being our enemies, they became our top allies and helped to the global economy, which then helped us again. It's almost as if when you do smart things, you get good results. When you do stupid things, you get bad results. But let me go a little further. The SS St. Louis came here in 1939. It had 900 people on that boat. You could almost call it a caravan, right? It was on the water and not on land. And it was filled with 900 Jews who were trying to escape Nazi Germany. We turned them back. We didn't ask questions, and we just didn't want them here. Hey, America first. Well, our people, if you're not from here, that's your problem. We don't want this mob coming in. 250 of them died in gas chambers when we sent them back. So what do the Republicans want to do now? By the way, if you want to cry over the analogy, go ahead and cry. But I'm telling you historical facts because they're relevant and important. So when those people come here, and Trump's idea is, don't even let them seek asylum. I don't want to know. I don't want to know if they're refugees or not refugees. I don't care. Just send them back. Well, we did that in 1939. And it's one of the most shameful things we've ever done in American history. So if you want to repeat things like that, you could have this thoughtless policy. And the thing that drives me crazy is, again, as always with the right wing, they can hold two contradictory thoughts in their head at the same time. See, Donald Trump is tough and he's been great at the border and he's so much better than Democrats. That's why everybody's coming in at the same time. What? Then why are people still coming? I thought Donald Trump was a genius who figured out how to make them stop coming, but it turns out they're coming in larger numbers than ever. Because it isn't about Donald Trump, it isn't about deterrence, and even if you shoot them, that's not gonna help, because they're shooting from the other side.
Exactly.
And they're shooting more from the other side. They've got their kids and they're running for their lives. And so the answer to that particular Republican gave to Emma in that rally was, let's shoot them as well. And if you'd given that answer in 1939, that would have been the only answer worse than the one we actually gave. Oh, you're running from the Nazis? We'll shoot at you and that'll teach you a lesson. So it doesn't mean you have to let everyone into the country. That's a total figment of right-wing imagination. When the caravan comes and they seek asylum, we have a process. And some of them are likely to be seeking asylum for legitimate reasons and some not. And the ones that are not, which is probably the majority, we don't allow them into the country. They're not ramming through any gate, they're going through legal process, and when they do, unfortunately, in my opinion, a lot of them get sent back, okay? We actually do have laws in this country. So when you hear on Fox News or Donald Trump saying, we don't have any borders and we don't have any laws in this country, it's not remotely true. We have a process that we've applied for decade after decade. And is it perfect? Do people cross the border without permission? Of course they do. It's not anywhere near perfect. But this caravan, it's a giant caravan. They're not hiding. All of the cameras in the world are trained on them. They're not trying to sneak in. They're in a caravan. They're going to go to a port and seek asylum. Do the right thing, do the American thing. Talk to them for a second and figure out which ones are refugees and which ones are not.
Yeah, follow the law. Actually go through our legal process instead of doing what Trump is suggesting, which is breaking the law and not hearing them out at all and turning them back.
Like what you see? Click the subscribe button below and don't forget to ring the bell to never miss another video from the Young Turks.